You know, the book of Revelation, it has this reputation, right, of being one of the most mysterious and honestly debated books in the entire Bible. But here's something you might not know. It's also the only book that promises a specific blessing just for reading it. And today, we're going to explore an interpretation of its very first few chapters that some believe holds the key to understanding, well, everything. So here's the central question we're diving into, and it's a provocative one. What if those 7 letters, written to 7 actual churches back in the first century, were more than just ancient mail? This particular view suggests they are a coded timeline, a prophecy that lays out the entire saga of the church age, from the very beginning right up to our time. So, you might be asking, where does an idea like that even come from? Well, proponents of this view argue that the book of Revelation actually hands us its own instruction manual. It gives us the blueprint for how to read it, right there in the very first chapter. See, the book itself tells the Apostle John exactly how to organize what he's seeing. It's broken into 3 parts. First, the things which you have seen. That's the incredible vision of Christ in chapter 1. Second, the things which are, and this is key, the 7 churches, which were the present-day reality. And third, the things which will take place after this, all the future prophecy that kicks off in chapter 4. That structure is crucial because it puts the 7 churches right at the center of the present age. Okay, and this is where it gets really deep. The idea is that these letters aren't just meant to be read on one single level. No. They're designed with these multiple layers of meaning, all working at the same time.
That's right, 4. 4 distinct applications, all happening at once, inside every single letter. It's kind of like a key that can unlock 4 different doors to the same room. Let's break down what those 4 are. First up, there's the local application. These were real letters sent to real historical churches dealing with very real, on-the-ground issues. Then there's the universal layer. The lessons in there are for any church, anywhere, at any time. Third, it's personal. That phrase you see over and over, he who has an ear, that's a direct call to you, to me, to any individual. And then there's the 4th layer, the most controversial one, the prophetic. This is the idea that these 7 letters, in the exact order they're given, actually map out 7 eras of church history.
Now, to make this theory feel a little more concrete, let's do a quick case study. We're going to zoom in on that final letter, the one sent to the church in a city called Laodicea. It's an absolutely perfect example of how these layers, especially that local one, are just packed with hidden meaning. Get this, even the city's name is a clue. Laodicea comes from 2 Greek words, Laos, which means the people, and deke, which means rights or rule. So you put them together, and what do you get? The rule of the people. This interpretation suggests the name itself points to the church's biggest problem. It was a church run by popular opinion, not by its actual head, Christ. And what's so incredible is how the letter uses Laodicea's own culture against itself, like a mirror. The city was famous for 4 things. It was a massive banking center, super wealthy, so the letter says, spiritually, you're poor. It was known for its amazing glossy black wool, so the letter tells them to buy white raiment. It had a world-famous medical school that produced an eye salve, and yet the letter says to get a real eye salve so they can finally see. And the kicker, its water had to be piped in from a distance, so by the time it got there, it was disgustingly lukewarm, and that becomes the knockout punch. Because you are lukewarm, I will spew you out of my mouth. This all leads to one of the most famous, most quoted verses in the entire Bible, and it comes from this very letter. I'm sure you've heard it a million times, but its original meaning, well, it might just surprise you. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. It's almost always used as this beautiful picture of Jesus knocking on the door of an unbeliever's heart, right? A gentle invitation for salvation. But remember the context. This letter is being written to the church of Laodicea, and that changes everything. The really shocking interpretation here is that this isn't a gentle invitation at all. It's a final, scathing indictment of the entire Laodicean church. The picture is of Christ on the outside of his own church, knocking to get in. It implies that the organization as a whole has pushed him out completely, and now he's making one last appeal, not to the group, but to any individual inside who might still have an ear to hear. Okay, so keeping that deep dive on Laodicea in mind, let's pull the camera back out to that 4th layer of meaning we talked about, this wild idea of a prophetic timeline hidden in the letters.
So according to this viewpoint, the 7 churches line up chronologically with the broad eras of church history. It kicks off with Ephesus, the hard-working apostolic church that lost its first love. That's followed by Smyrna, the persecuted church. Then Pergamos, the compromised church that got too cozy with the state. Thyatira is seen as the corrupt medieval period, followed by Sardis, the Reformation church, which had a reputation for being alive but was actually dead. Then you get the bright spot, Philadelphia, the faithful missionary church. And where does it all end? With Laodicea, the lukewarm, self-satisfied apostate church of the end times.
What this all implies is just massive. It suggests these aren't just 7 random warnings to 7 random churches. Instead, it views them as a single, integrated, and intentional story, a narrative of 2,000 years of history, written down before any of it actually happened. And those who hold to this interpretation will point to what they see as other clues, these other patterns of 7 hidden throughout the Bible. They argue that things like the 7 kingdom parables in Matthew 13, and even the 7 specific churches that the Apostle Paul wrote to, seem to follow the exact same thematic pattern, from purity all the way to a final falling away. Which leaves us with a final, massive question to chew on. Is all of this intricate layering, the local details, the personal warnings, the universal lessons, and this potential prophetic timeline, is it all just a mind-bending coincidence of history? Or, as this interpretation suggests, could it be the deliberate, unmistakable fingerprint of a single author, weaving a masterpiece across the pages of time?